Christine Lagarde has not been rehabilitated. Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. In today's video, we'll be discussing what a very high-profile French convict has been up to as the head of the ECB. She is conducting what is called the second strategic review for the European Central Bank. And this is all about sort of rehabilitating the ECB and making sure that everything is all in line for her reign to come, right? Now, you think there's quite a Machiavellian thing going on here, right?
Yeah, I think it's really nefarious. She's pretending that it's all about the environment, trying to make a green agenda sort of in line with the ECB's policies officially. And I think it's all about basically rewriting the rules so that she can rescue the Eurozone.
Right, so the last strategic review took place in 2003, so that was only 4 years after the euro had been formally created. And back then, it was all about changing the inflation expectations. So the European Central Bank, prior to 2003, actually, their inflation target was between 0 and 2%, which is a crazy thing to think of now, when central banks are trying whatever they can do to create inflation. So back then, it would have been fine to have 0% inflation, whereas today that is utterly terrifying. And it was after 2003 that they then changed that to being slightly below 2% as their inflation target. But this second strategic review is much more, seems to be much more broad-based, right? So they're trying to, or they say this is all about helping the climate, or changing the rules with capital keys and the like. But what do you think is what do you think Christine Lagarde's main priority is in doing this?
So right now, there are a lot of constraints and limitations to the ECB, to the policies. And Christine Lagarde is very good at ignoring the sorts of rules that govern the ECB. When she was head of the IMF, she stated quite clearly that they ignore the rules in order to save the Eurozone. So what Lagarde is doing this time around is reforming the ECB in order to get rid of the constraints that hold it back when it tries to rescue places like Greece and Italy.
And do you think that's imminent, and that she is effectively seeing the crisis ahead of time and moving now in order to have the tools ready to fight the flames, I guess?
That's right. So one of the rules governing the ECB is the issuer limit, which means the central bank's not allowed to buy too high a proportion of any single government's bonds. I think it's about 33%. It was increased from 15%. And within the next 6 months, they're going to hit that limit when it comes to the Dutch government bonds, because the Dutch don't have as much debt as most other nations. And so if she manages to change the rules before we hit the limit, then that basically de-risks the whole situation, because it means nobody can legally challenge her policy of more QE to try and rescue the Eurozone.
Right, and do you think she'll be successful with this nefarious plan?
That's the big question. It's whether the Germans go along with all this, and the Dutch, of course, and whether it's going to work or not. Now, I'm not so sure about what's going to happen. There have been a lot of stories in the German media that have been anti-ECB and anti-0% interest rates, anti-QE in the last few months. So I'm not sure yet. But what I can say is, if they do get away with changing the rules that govern the ECB, there should be an almighty melt-up in European stocks.
Well, there you have it, folks. The question of rehabilitation continues for both Christine Lagarde and the Eurozone. Thank you very much for watching today's Daily Blitz, and be sure to tune in next time.